Hi, I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I finish off using all of my scrap pieces of clay and cane ends. This is the third part of a series of using them all up. At the beginning of January I set myself a sort of goal to try and use them up, or a challenge to see how much I could get from the tray of scraps that you'll have seen at the beginning of the other videos that I've done. And as you can see, I've got loads. I've got 4 trays worth of beads, and yeah, it's going to take me a long time to work through all of these. It's there's been days where I've been feeling like pulling my hair out because it's like, oh, what have I done to myself? But I'm glad I've got it done in the end, and I feel like I've accomplished something. All of this would have just been from used as bead filler if I'd have not turned it into these different things. But there were too many nice colours for me to just leave and to turn into mud for me to you know, just put in the centre of other beads. So I've got a good stash just from the scraps from all the other things that I've already made. So there's plenty of techniques for me to show you things to make and what to do with them. So let's get to it and I'll show you how. Right, so the first part for video 3 is going to be making a leaf cane out of this skinner blend that we made in the second video. So I'm just taking it and I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to run it through the pasta machine on my thickest setting and then down a few settings just so it's thinner. So we've gone very, very long now with this. And then what we're going to do, we're going to roll it into a jelly roll. Again. So I'm starting with the lightest on the inside. You can start with the darkest on the outside, on the inside if you wish. Just try to make sure you get all the air pockets out as you're going up. Just saves you having to do it as you're going along. Now if you want to put a little bit more light colour on the inside, you can just put another piece of whatever your lightest colour is at the end and start rolling around that, and then you just get more of that lighter colour then. Now don't worry if the end of your cane's going like this, it's we can trim it off and we can use it for something else like we've done with the rest of the scraps. There we go. So I'm just making sure it's all out. I'm just going to press it down. Now, usually I use my acrylic block, but I've forgot to bring it out with me. So I'm just using something that's flat, just to help push the air out. Okay. Right, so what we're going to do first is we're just going to put the thinner veins into the leaf. So because it's quite a dark green, I've gone for a black for the finer veins. Now, depending on how many veins you want it to have, depends on how many cuts that we're going to make. So I think I'm going to do 3 on this one. If you have a really bigger cane, then you can do more, or you could do more on this side if you want, but usually I do 2 or 3 when I'm doing my leaves. So I'm just going down. So right, I've got my 3. So I'm going to move these to the side so where I can work closer. So I'm going to take the second slice. I'm just going to cover it on both sides. That one. Right, so trim that one. And trim the other side. There, a bit over, and then this is going to go back into our cane here. And then we've just got one more to put in, so we're just going to take the top slice. Put that on there. Throw in my clay away. Put them together. So they're lined up back where they were originally. A little bit more, there we go. And then you flip it over, make sure you've got both ends lined up. Now, to put the centre vein in, we're going to cut it at an angle. So, this one. So I'm going to go from there, so just below the first cut that I made and just above the last cut that I made. Right, so for the centre vein, I'm wanting something to go in the middle, so I'm going to use the black for the outline of the middle vein, but then I want some yellow on the inside. So to make sure we've got the right size of the yellow, I'm just going to mark it out like this. Right, so that's the full size of what the inside of the cane will be. Now we don't want it to go all the way to the top, so I'm just going to chop a little bit off, and then that is what we're going to be lining for our centre vein. So put that back where it goes, and then I'm just going to pop some black clay around it. Now I'm going to leave a little tiny bit at the top so it tapers off into the leaf. Just trim it there to the bottom, and then flip it over. So, sorry if you can hear my neighbours doing some DIY, hammering in the background. I don't know whether if you'll be able to hear it, so I apologise if you can. So now I'm just squeezing it so it tapers it off. That's all we're going to do. So I'm going to take our two pieces, and then I'm going to put our centre vein here. As you can see, it doesn't quite go all the way up to the top, but it tapers into it. So we take our second piece and flip, and then we're just going to put them together like that. And then get any air pockets out of it. And then what I'm going to do is with the other green that we got left over from what we worked on the second video, that's not quite dark enough for what I want, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some black to it. I'm going to make it a little bit darker, and I'll come back and I'll show you how to line it. Right, so I've got my green a little bit darker now, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to line the outside of the cane with it. So trim it so you've got the straight edge. Same here. Then I'm going to wrap around, just going to where the bottom vein starts. I'm just going to wrap it around. I've got this rolled out on my thickest setting because when the cane's reduced, like I said earlier, that layer will go fairly thin, so you're not going to see much of it. That's why I just wanted it to be a little bit darker, otherwise it would have just blended in with the rest of the cane. So I'm trimming that off, and then just take it on the other side. There we go, and we've got our leaf cane. So I'll go get this worked on off camera, and I shall come back with the next thing to do. Right, so for the next bit I'm using some actual scrappy pieces, not a colour that we've made. As you can see, I've still got quite a lot left. This is taking a bit longer than I expected it to do, but I will do it, I'm determined. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to make a different form of slab so we can cut things out a bit. So I'll go with this one because it's got quite a lot of nice bright colours in it. So now mine's already been formed into a shape, that's just because I'd started making it into one of the other canes that I've shown you in the other videos, but then I decided to leave it as it is. So just waking it up a bit because it had gone a bit hard. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to chop it up a little bit. Even though it's already mixed up clay, I just want to get a bit more variation in what I'm going to be doing. So I've got them chopped up. Sorry, I'll zoom in for you now that you've seen the vast amount that's left on my tray. And then I think I'm going to go with this black because you want something that's a high contrast to it, just so that it gives the effect that we want. So I'm just going to run this through on a thinner setting. This is on my thickest setting at the moment. It doesn't have to be black, it just looks better if you've got a darker colour. There we go. So I'm going to trim some of this off because we're not going to need all of it. I'll just make a nice patch for it to go on. Okay. I'm just going to put these on top. I'm just going to roll those out with my roller. Further up on that so you can see better. Now the reason I'm going over it with the roller is just so that it's a bit thinner for it to go through the pasta machine. You don't have to put it through the pasta machine, this is just what I usually do. So I'm going to run it through on my thickest setting. Just a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to chop off some of this excess black, so I'm not going to need those little bits. And then all I'm going to do now, I'm just going to chop it into sections. It doesn't need to be exact, just into sections that we can layer on top of each other. So in fact we'll come down the middle and have them smaller so we've got more to stack up on top of each other. So just going to stack them. So you could use this method for doing the oh, I think it was the first video I did, or no, sorry, the second one, where I sliced them and laid them flat and then rolled them out. It's one of the other videos anyway, I can't remember. I've been working with my scraps for nearly a month now, so I can't remember what's cut into what video. So I'm just layering them up. As you can see, we're going to get a thin layer of black in between all those colours. Put that bit on there. going to squish it together. In the very technical term, squish. And just use your roller if you want, just to compress some of the air out of it. Okay. So now what we can do is, we could either leave it like this and create one of those backgrounds that I did on one of the other videos, or we can just take thin slices. Doesn't have to be exact again, just roughly around about the same size. Now if you don't want to have full black or whatever colour you've gone in, you can just, when you're chopping your clay up, you can just put some bits in. I just wanted to put it in so that it made it a little bit more even. So I've got that in. Because the cane was already chopped up, I want it to have some semblance. Now you can either decide whether if you want to have all of them going the same way or you want to have them opposite. Or them opposite, whether go a bit funky. The idea is that it's not an exact pattern. Don't know the actual proper technical term for it. So if anybody knows, let me know in the comments, because I've done this method before, but I just haven't ever known what the proper name for it is. Like, I know what Natasha's are called, but I know there's different names for all these clay techniques. But when you've been looking at all different techniques from when you're first starting out, I've seen that many things now, I just can't think what everything's called again. So there we go. I'll chop these ones in half so that they're thin out. So we'll go that way, and I'll just stick that one at the end. Okay, so then you've got another slab. So and all you need to do is just roll this out, and then you can pop it in your pasta machine, or just roll it out by hand to the thickness that you want. So if you've got any gaps in here, this is just when you work it through with your roller. And then you've got a very funky pattern that you can just cut anything out of. So there's lots of different things that you could do with this. So you can cut some cabochons out, you can cut smaller shapes out, just anything, pretty much anything that I've showed you how to use on the other slabs already that I've shown you on the previous videos. So I'll go and work the rest of this off camera and I'll come back with the next bit. Right, so for the next one I'm just going to pick something else off my tray. Let's go with some of this because I've not used any of this so far. So I'll use all of it. I can actually see space on my tray, which gives me a little bit of hope that I'm going to get this finished. Okay, so I've just got some canes. This is from a peacock cane that I made a while ago. So the clay needs re-waking back up. But I'm just going to chop it up a little bit more. And then we're squeezing it back together. The reason I'm doing this is just to separate the colours apart from each other so we get a varied blend, because we're just making another slab again for us to cut things out of. As you can see, this one's quite crumbly because I think at least 2 months ago that I made this cane. Might be longer actually. It was well before Christmas. Okay, I'll pick all the other bits up. what we're going to do is we're just going to do what we've done on another one of them. We're doing like the marbling sort of technique, but I'm not adding anything to this one. Unless you feel that it needs a little boost of something else. But because I think there's only like 4 different colours within this cane, I thought there was just enough variation. I'm just trying to roll it out a little bit. Right, so I'm going to go and get this finished rolled off and then gone through my pasta machine on the thickest setting, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with it. Right, so this is what I've got. So again, it's a marbling effect, but what I'm going to use this time is I'm just going to use these flower cutters. So this is one type that I've got, and then I've got a daisy as well. There's lots of different ones that you can get. If you look in the fondant section in your craft stores or on AliExpress or Amazon, Wish, you know, any of those, you can get these really cheaply. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut them out. I'll punch them out, should I say. And then if I had my pokey tool, I've not got the right one, but I'll get this one out instead. So you just want to take your pokey tool, and then I'm just going to, what's to focus? No, do it again. Sorry about this. Right, so I'll just cut it out, and then I'm just going to press down with my needle tool in the middle of the petals, and then I'm going to just put a hole in the centre. So I'm going to make lots of these, and these will be good for bead embroidery and things like that. Or you could make marguerite beads. So those ones you'd use one of the bigger sizes. So let's go. I don't want the very biggest one, but like this, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing better anyway. Yeah, so you get that varied colour in it. Now on the bigger sizes, you can put 2 lines down. You don't have to put any lines down if you don't want, but I like doing it. I learnt this technique from Susan of Turtle Soup Beads, so I'll put a Patreon link in the description box. It's not showing. Usually I'd use my normal needle tool, but silly me's forgot to bring it out to my studio. So there we go, and we just go down in the middle. Any edges that are roughed up, you can just smooth out with your fingers. There you go. So you can use these for clay embroidery, or you could use them as standalone flowers. You can decorate things with them. Lots of things that you can do with these, but out of that one slab I'm going to get quite a lot of flowers. So I'll do the rest of those off camera, because you don't want to watch me doing all of that, because that'd be very tedious. So I'm going to get this cleared, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing next. Okay, so next part I'm going to make some sort of flower cane. So I'm going to use this as my vein colour, the purple that I blended from before. So I'm going to take this so it's totally different from what that colour is going to be. And then I'll put these little bits in as well. So I'm just going to squeeze it together like we've done on all the other ones. sure you've got all the air out of it. If you've got any bits of gold leaf or anything in here, you need to make sure that they're stuck really well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go roughly on the outside, so still going to have a little bit of this left over, not much but still going to be some there. So I've got that trimmed, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put that over the scrap knife. Let's cut a little bit more off of that. Okay, and then I've just got a second colour. And we're just wanting a small section of this, so it's narrower than the first colour. I'm going to lay that down the centre. There we go. So now I'm going to create my flower cane or petal cane. A bit further over there, not quite in the middle. Not that it's going to matter loads because we're going to be reducing it down and moving it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to start pinching the sides and turning it into a triangular shape. So we want this bit here that we've just put on to be the top part of our triangle. And flip it over and then you can push it into your work mat. Squish it and stretch it out. So try and make the bottom a bit thicker than the top, but you still want to try and squish it quite thin because we're going to layer it up. Okay, so how far have I got that? Back to 12, so we've got, we'll go with 1.5. So we'll cut it into 4. Sorry, I've come off camera again. Sorry about that. And then we're just going to take our pieces. I'm going to layer them up this way. Okay, you can see I've got that one a little bit too long, so I'll just trim that off. I'll just make a nice lentil bead on its own, or from whatever we reduce this down to. I'm sure there'll be a few bits to trim off. So as you can see, we've got that marbling effect, but just in between the colours that we've put on. And again, just reduce it down the way that we did before. Now, because we've got quite a lot of colours off, I'm not going to reduce it down and put it back together as many times as I usually would. I'd probably do it 3 times when I'm making a normal flower cane or a petal cane, but I'm just going to cut this into, I'll stretch it out to, so it's about 4 inches, and I'm going to cut that straight down the middle. Just do it one more time. Okay, and then I'm just going to squish that together. Okay, so I'm going to reduce that down a bit, and I'm going to get some clay that I'm going to wrap it with, and I'll come back and show you what to do. Right, so I've reduced it down a little bit. Now I'm just going to cut the end off so we've got a clean cane. So I've got the full cane, you can see. So we've got our veins coming down in between the all the sort of marbling effect that we've got. So again, do that on this side. And then I've got some yellow that I'm going to line it with. So straighten that up. Now you want something that's just going to differentiate the sections from one another. So now there's bits of clay from my pasta machine because I think it's getting ready for the plates cleaning out, but I'm not worried about that because we've got quite a dark colour, you know, on the petal cane, so it's not going to show up all that much. So I'm just going to line it. So I'm going for a nice bright yellow. Okay. So we've got something to differentiate from. Now this has gone really soft, so I might wait a little while to reduce it any further so there's not too much distortion. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I've done on the previous videos, and I'm going to reduce it down. I'm going to keep some as just a petal cane for me to make some little pieces like I've done in the other video, and I'm going to create a flower cane from it as well. So I will come back and show you this once I've got it put together, but it's very soft at the minute, so I need to let it stiffen up a little bit before I can reduce it. But once it's done, I'll bring it back and I'll show you what I've done. Right, so I've got it reduced down and I've got it to about 7 inches. So I'm going to cut off 5 1-inch sections, and this is going to be for the flower cane. Now when you're reducing any of these scraps down, if you reduce them too far they will go rather muddy looking. So that's why I'm just going with a smaller cane with this. I'll not reduce this down too much because you'll not be able to see the veins in it. Because on some of the other flowers that I've done, once it's reduced down it can go quite dark. I mean, you can use them just the same, it's just take that into consideration when you're planning whatever you're going to do with your beads. So I'm just flattening down the point like I've done on the other videos when I've done a flower. Okay. So I'm wanting something really bright in the centre because obviously the smaller this gets, the darker it's going to get, so I want something to really make that centre pop, so to speak. So just cut a little bit more. So I'm just taking a little of orange from my scrap box that I keep. So this is what's going to be just the petal cane anyway, so we can keep that separate. I'm just going to roll this out into a log. Now remember, the centre doesn't reduce down as much as what the outside does, so you want to make it a little bit thinner than you think it probably would need. So I'm just going to chop that off. Okay. So I'm just popping that in the middle. You could put a patterned centre in, but because there's quite a lot of pattern going on anyway, I want to keep it just as a solid colour. I'm just placing them around. Now if you wanted to do a 6-petal flower, you could. I might do that. Yeah, I think we will. So I've got 2 inches of that one, so I can reduce that down just for some little pieces. So when you're doing a flower, either 5 or 6 pieces, or even more if you wanted, but I'm just going to go with 6 for this one. So I think on all the other ones I've done a 5-petal one, so I'll go with the 6. So I've got that all lined up at the top, flip it over, just make sure that they're all straight on the bottom. Then I'm just squishing it so that it gets rid of all those air pockets. Okay, so there we've got our flower cane and our petal cane. So I'm going to work these off camera like I've done all the other ones, and I'll come back and show you what I've done, and I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do with the rest that's left on the tray. Right, so this is all I've got left. So what I've decided I'm going to do now is, these are all probably going to be lentil beads, but then I'm going to turn them into different shapes. So I'm going to go off camera and turn these all into lentils, because it's going to take me quite a while, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the different shapes that I'm going to make with it. So all you need to do is just watch my first part of this video, or I think I've got another video where I've done them in, but you just need to make lentils, and then I'll show you what to do to make the rest of the shapes. So as you can see, I've been busy making lots and lots of lentils, and I've finally finished making them. It took me ages. But what I'm going to do now is just show you some different shapes that you can turn them into, so you don't just have to keep them this normal sort of lentil shape. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit now so that you can see what I'm doing. I've not got my usual board on, but I don't need it at the moment just to do this bit. So I'm going to take some of these green ones. That's it. So I'm going to turn some of these into just regular round ball beads. So I'm just going to gently manipulate the lentil, just pushing it in, just so that we keep that swirl that's in the centre. You just have to keep on doing this until it just gets into that ball-like shape. And sometimes you might have to flip it around just to make sure that the other side goes out as well. As you can see, it's getting more and more round as we're doing it. So we've got there, and then I just like to give them a quick sort of either roll in my hand or just back and forwards on my work mat when I've got that with me, that is. So that is, and you can do it on the back, on the inside of your hand as well. So as you can see, we've still got our lovely swirl going on with that one. So right, and the next one I'll take some of these lovely purpley coloured ones, and I'm going to turn these ones into teardrops. So we're basically going to do the same, but we're just going to pinch the top. That's all we're going to do. So with this one you could skewer it 2 different ways. You could go from side to side like this, or you can go from top to bottom like this. So the ball beads is just basically going from side to side, so that one's easy enough. So the teardrops you do have an option with. Okay, so then the next option, let's go for some of these blue and white ones sort of here. So this one I'm going to turn into a barrel bead. So because it's got quite big chunks of white on this one, I'm just going to pinch it into the right shape like this. I'm going to show you how to do it without a bead roller, because not everybody's got one. So we're just there, and then you can just roll it in your hand just to make it go more into that barrel bead shape. So, there we go, see if I can zoom it in a little bit better. Okay, so we've got that into our barrel shape. So you probably can't see the swirl as well as you can do when I've got my normal mat underneath me, but I've just brought them out into my studio just to film this bit. So you've got a barrel bead, and what other shape can we do? Put that one back. We could try and turn it into a bit of a square. So I'm just pinching it like this, so it could be either a diamond. So rather than turning it into a straight barrel bead like we've just done, we're just pinching it and then it can go into a diamond. And then the other one I'll show in a different colour. So we'll do the same again, but we can turn it into a square. So if you push it into each other and you make each of the sides equal, you can get a square bead. Now I don't use square beads all that often, but that's just another option that you can do with your lentils. I have got another video that shows you how to do all of these separately and in more depth, so I'll link that in the description box below so that you can see it. And then just these big ones that I've done here, I've just made them flat back, so if I want to do some bead embroidery, I can just put glue on the back of here, you know, some E6000 or something, and then I can bead around it, and I've just smoothed it out with a bit of the plastic that I've shown you before in other sections of the video. So these ones I've not actually shaped yet, so you can keep them, you know, just the normal lentil shape, and you can decorate them. You can skewer them from here and here, or you can go straight down the middle, across. But if you go straight in the middle, they've got a tendency to flip. So if you're wanting to bead around it, you're probably better off putting 2 holes, one in here and one further down, just so that you've got that stability coming from it. I think that's about it for me to show you on these. So I'm going to turn all of these into the different shape beads that I've got. Like I said, I've got a separate video that shows you different sizes. I'm trying to think of all the shapes now that I've got, and can't think of them off the top of my head, but I probably will once I've stopped filming. So I'm going to see to all of these, and then I'll come back once everything's baked, and then I am done. This video has been taking me nearly a month to do, so I'm really happy that I've got to the end of it. So I'll go and get these seen to, and I'll come back. Now these ones that we've either made into a barrel bead or a diamond, we can skewer them straight across top to bottom, or you could have one going at either side. So like through, oh sorry, I've gone off there. So you can either go from top to bottom, or you can go through this part here and this one, and then you've got more options of what you can do with the beads. Same as with the square bead. So with a square bead, you can do the same straight across, or you can go from corner to corner. So that's pretty much like a diamond, but it's more of an equal size diamond or a square. So it's up to you how you think you're going to use these beads. So that's just another option for you. So finally I can show you absolutely everything that I've made over the last month, just using my scraps and cane ends and just bits and bobs. So as you can see, I've got loads. I can't get them all in the shot at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear some out of the way, and I'm going to go through each tray individually, so then you can get a better close-up of what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to move this one out of the way to start with, and we'll just go with these strands of beads that I've strung up ready for storage. Now, so these are the barrel beads that I showed you how to make. They're all tended up in the thread at the end. So as you can see, I've got a really big strand of these. I think it's at least 18 inches, this strand. It's actually, it's more. Yeah, so that's probably at least 20 inches of that one, actually looking at it, just measuring it roughly at the side of my other work mat. And these are just some cube beads that I made from one of the canes that I showed you how to make. And then we've got some leaf beads from that other cane that we made, and that one's probably just about as long as the barrel bead one. Yeah, that's about the same as that one, so got a good one there. And I've not glazed any of these yet. I wanted to show you them unglazed. And then these are another form of the canes that we did. This was the round version of, it was sort of like the starburst one, and then this is the square one that I shaped into that one. So I've got different varieties. It's the same pattern, just in different shape and different size. These ones were just some lentil beads that I turned into ball beads, and these are just a lovely aquamarine sort of colour. They've still got the swirl on them on different sides, but I think they look a bit nice once they've got some glaze on them. But I've got, how many inches of this set? That's about 9 inches here that I've got, so they're quite a chunky bead. And then we've got some more barrel beads, and these were just from the chopping up the random pieces and just squishing them together, so you've got a total random mix of all the different colours that was in that wedge that I showed you. And this is just some more of the decorated barrel beads that I've done. And then these was one, I think this was one of the canes, yes, this was one of the canes, and I've turned these into some flower beads, and I've also made some marguerite beads for me to do some bead embroidery. So I've just put a hole in the centre of those ones, and then I can use them in different ways. And then these are marguerites as well, but I think this is from one of the other canes that I made. So I've made some larger ones so I can use them as clasps, and then these smaller ones I can use for bead embroidery, or they can go into a jewellery piece, you know, whichever I decide on at the time. And this is just, these match the first lot of barrel beads that I showed you, so they're all in the same colourway, but these are just teeny tiny lentil beads, and there's absolutely tons of those on there, so I'm going to be going for a while. And then this is another one of the canes. I've just shaped it into a leaf shape so I can use them for fringing when I'm doing a necklace or bracelet or something. So that's those. And then what shall we go? We'll go with this smaller plate next, and then we can bring the big ones in. So these is just some of the stripes, what are they called? Slabs. I can remember in the end. So there's just different slabs that I've made. Didn't show you all of them all along, because it's already taken up way longer than I expected it to do. It's taken me nearly a month to go through all of this. So yeah, if I showed you absolutely everything on it, you would have got bored long ago. So, but these are just some of the slabs that I've made, so you can see the different colourways. I've decorated a few of them there on one of the other plates, but I'll get them out in a second. And then I've got some large Natasha beads, and I've glazed them with some it's the no wipe UV nail varnish that I've just coated them with, so they've got a nice shine to them, so they're ready for beading. And then just got some decorated lentils, some more Natashas, so this one hasn't been glazed or anything yet. And then just got some tiny little bits that left. I think there was sort of tiny little bit of this cane that was left over, so I just made a couple of Natashas and a lentil bead so that I can just bead around that one in some embroidery or something. And then I've got some different shaped size hearts. Those are from the same colour one, so they're roughly about the same. Then I've got some larger lentil swirls that I've changed into different shapes. Apology for the lighting, I've not got one of my lights plugged in because it's playing up today, so I do apologise, but I'm trying to get the lighting as best as I can for you. So these were just big chunks that I turned into lentil beads, and I've just shaped them, you know, into different shapes for me to do different projects with. So I've got a little drop swirl bead there, some more Natashas. That one actually needs to go on the other tray, I missed that one. And then these are just some little teeny tiny ones that I can probably make some like earrings or something with when I find the one that matches up to it. Costing us that much, they've ended up getting all mixed up, and I've just put them on trays for me to show you what I've got. So that's that tray done. See, I'm going to be busy for a very long time, and You can't understand how pleased I am that I finally got to the end of this. I've been having dreams about scrap clay and what I could do with it and how far it can go, and then I've had moments thinking, why have I done this, because it's just sent to be going on forever, but got there in the end. So as you can see now, I've got some more lentil beads here. These are some more of the decorated ones. I've just used some cane slices just to decorate them, just so you can see what you can do. And we've got a sort of diamond shaped lentil. So I've got other beads that go with this colour. These ones, I think. This was the matching ones to go with these ones. I think I just added a little bit of, oh sorry, wrong way. I added a little bit of yellow into these ones because I didn't want it to go too dark, so I just added a little bit more yellow into the lentils, and I've done different shapes of those ones. So I did my ball beads, and then I did some little teardrops, and then just the regular lentil shapes. So I've got 3 different shapes of it. Same with these ones, and with these ones I've actually got some, I think these were the ones I did some barrel beads with. No, it must be the other one. Yeah, I think it's the other one. But these are just some teardrop beads and some ball beads. No, not ball beads, lentils. I've been making it for so long I can't remember everything. Oh, and then these were some of the ones that I made those square ones with that I showed you, that I've just skewered from side to side. So it can't see very well, I'm afraid. I'll see if I can... Right, so apologies that if it's not all zoomed in properly and you can't see with all the lighting, but I shall try my best to get through it. So these are some of the sort of more diamond shaped beads that I showed you last, that I've made with lentil beads, and I've just shaped them into different shaped beads. This might be the one, might be on the other tray. But I made some barrel beads with the lentils, so they're the same thing, it's just lentils that have gone in. And then with these ones, this was one of the canes that we made, so I've just made some flower beads, and I've also just left some as disc beads, so I've got a different option of things to make. I also made a couple of pod beads. These I learned how to make from Susan on Turtlesuk Beads. I'll link her Patreon in the description box, so if you want to learn how to do these ones you can go and visit her Patreon. And then I've also made some of these little slices for my bead embroidery, and it's basically just the flower cane, and I've just cut slices that are maybe probably 2mm thick, and then I've shaped in the petals on the flowers just by going in with my needle tool, and I've just put a hole in the centre so I can use those for bead embroidery. And I've got 2 little pots of those ones. I've put them in there so they don't go missing. So I've got 2 pots of those ones. And then with this leaf cane that we made, I can't remember the actual full length of how much this was, but I think this has probably been the longest cane I've ever made. And you can see how many leaf beads I've got, and I could have probably gone a bit smaller, but I didn't want to lose the white in the centre too much and then go even darker than what they already are. Because that's the problem when you're using scraps and things, because it's sort of like the end pieces can go quite muddy quite quickly, you know, when you're reducing. So you just have to be thoughtful of that when you're using them. And then I've just made some more of the slices like I did with the yellow cane, just with some of the leaves for me to be able to do bead embroidery and things like that with. And then more lentils, and that's pretty much it. This one's mainly lentils and cane work out of this one. As you can see, I've got absolutely tons of stuff going on there. So, and then we're coming on to the last one. So as you can see, I've got a fair few amounts of these little pots left now. So let's go with this one first. These ones were slices from one of the canes. So I've just reduced them down into a petal shape or leaf shape, and then just put a little hole in the top. So I've got 2 pots of those, and then I've also done that with one of the other petal canes that we made. So I've got another little jar full of those. And then, oh, these were the tiny little flowers that we punched out just from that marbled slab that we made. and I've just made all the different sort of sizes that there were in those type of flowers that I showed you. So this is a pot of the really teeny tiny ones, and then those are the, no sorry, those are the really teeny tiny ones. I'll show you. These are the smallest version of those little flowers. They're really, really small. And then the other ones, the next couple of sizes up. And I did a couple of the bigger ones, but I think they must, yes, I think the bigger ones were in this one. And I've turned those into just larger marguerite beads just for me to use as clasps on necklaces and things. But, and then that's the next one up from the medium sized ones. So there's lots of those for me to go on with, and then I've done some more slices of the pink cane that I showed you how to make. So that's just got stripes of all the different colours in. So those are really fun just to jazz up your bead embroidery a little bit. Now this is another one of the canes that we made, and this is with the, sort of looks a bit like a kaleidoscope, but it's not. I think it was the, yes it was the butterfly wing cane that I've done a variation of, and this is the flower cane that we made, and then this is the actual just the petal cane. I left a little bit larger so that you could see the pattern a little bit more in these ones. And then I also made a few marguerite beads for bead embroidery, and one is a large clasp for if I want to make a necklace or something. So just got some smaller ones for the embroidery, and then just got a nice big one for a clasp. Now these ones, these are some more of the slab pieces that I made. As you can see, these ones I've done a few that are already decorated. So I've put some rhinestones in, and I've just done some clay embroidery on it. And this is another one. So I've kept them flat. I've not put any resin or anything on top of them, so I can decide when I'm actually doing it if that's what I want to do for that piece that I'm doing. But I can always back these with something else as well and give it an embossed back, or just put some texture on it as well if I don't want to bead around it. So that's why I've left it the way that it is. And this one is another piece of the slab, and I've just cut it out in a sort of leaf shape. It's a bit wider at one side actually, and I've just used large rhinestone in the centre, and I've just gone around that with some little leaves that I've made, and then I've just used some cutters to decorate around the edge and put some more rhinestones in. Really like that one. And this was just one of the lentil beads that I've put a rhinestone in and decorated it around the edge. Now these ones are a variation of Natasha beads that I also learnt from Susan on Turtle Soup Beads. So if you want to learn how to make this variation of it, go and check her out on her Patreon and you'll be able to see it. It's such a fun technique, and I'm so glad that she shared it with us because it's fantastic. I like these a lot more than regular Natasha beads now, because it looks like you've done a kaleidoscope cane without actually doing a kaleidoscope cane. She really is a genius for coming up with that technique. So definitely go on and check her. Show you how to make those. But I've got lots and lots of these ones. As you can see, I got a bit addicted to making these, and I've resined these ones up because I like them shiny. Because I noticed with the scraps I was using for this one, the smaller it went, the darker it was getting. So I wanted to see whether if putting the nail varnish on top of it would make it brighter again, and it did. It brought the pattern back out. So it's definitely a good point. So just when you're reducing things, when you are using your scraps and your canons, just make sure that you're not going too small and then making it really dark. That's going in there. And then this one is just basically the slabs that I've shown you how I've made, and I've cut them out into circles, and then I used a drinks can, the bottom of a drinks can, just to make it domed. So as you can see, I've got a nice domed cap there, so I can either bead around it the way that it is, or I could put some cane slices on it and decorate it more, just bead around it. I've put 4 little holes in it, just in case I wanted to just bead embroidery it straight away, so that I've got something just to tack it down to onto my felt when I'll be working on it, but I can quite easily just add to this with some cane slicers and do different things with it. But I really like that technique, and these ones were just bits that were left over, so if you want to do the marbling technique you could just leave them like this and just make them shiny and decorate them up however you want. Or these are just good bases for you to do clay embroidery bases on. So if there's a design that you want to do, you could make these as bases just from your scrap clay, and then you can cover it with the coloured clay that you want, or a different slab, just so that you've got a bit of a thicker base for you to be able to put your embroidery onto. So those are a good way to use it. And the same as with these ones, I've just made some bases. Now they are quite nice, these just the rainbow pieces here, so I could use them for either of those, but I've just done different shapes. I've done some flat, some domed, I've got a nice big teardrop one here. So I've definitely got lots and lots of things to be playing with for a very long time. Don't know how long it's going to take me to use up all of this, but as you can see, I think it's going to be a long time. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and it's inspired you to get those scraps used up and to just think of different ways to use the stuff that you probably would have just used as bead filler or something else. So if you've liked it, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, if you consider subscribing, that'd be appreciated too. So thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Bye.